Ralph Whitey Tropiano was a notorious figure in organized crime, particularly in the New England and New York underworlds. His life, which spans several decades of criminal activities, connects him to some of the most infamous mob-related incidents and mafia families in America. Here's an overview of his life, including the cities where he operated, his criminal activities, involvement in murders, and his eventual death. Early life and beginnings in New York. Ralph Whitey Tropiano was born in 1914 in Brooklyn, New York. He grew up in the tough streets of Brooklyn, a hotbed for organized crime. Tropiano became involved with the New York Mafia during the early part of his life, particularly aligning himself with the Genovese crime family, one of the 5 families of the New York Mafia. Throughout the 1930s and 1940s, Tropiano built his reputation as a tough enforcer. He was heavily involved in various rackets, including loan sharking, extortion, and gambling. By the 1950s, he was considered a key figure in the Brooklyn underworld, known for his ruthlessness and involvement in violent activities. Moving to New Haven, Connecticut. In the mid-1950s, Tropiano shifted his base of operations to New Haven, Connecticut. This move was part of a broader effort by New York crime families to extend their influence into smaller cities where there was less competition but ample opportunity to expand illegal businesses. New Haven, being a smaller city with less organized crime presence, became fertile ground for Tropiano's operations. In New Haven, Tropiano expanded his influence by setting up gambling and loan sharking operations. He became a significant player in Connecticut's underworld, working alongside and sometimes competing with other mobsters who had interests in the region. Involvement in murders and organized crime. Tropiano's career was marred by violence, particularly his involvement in murders. One of the most well-known killings connected to Tropiano was the murder of small-time gangster William "Billy" Grasso, who was a powerful figure in the Connecticut Mafia. Grasso's death was part of a power struggle between different factions of the mob in the state, and Tropiano was believed to be involved in orchestrating it to consolidate his own power. He was also suspected of being involved in multiple contract killings, either personally or through his associates. This made Tropiano a feared figure in the New England mob scene. However, his increasing involvement in high-profile murders eventually attracted the attention of law enforcement. Decline and arrest. By the 1960s, law enforcement agencies, particularly the FBI, had started to take serious notice of organized crime in New England and the tri-state area. Tropiano was under heavy surveillance, and his criminal activities were being closely monitored. In 1969, Tropiano was convicted of conspiracy to commit murder and racketeering. This conviction came as part of a broader crackdown on the mafia, following a period of heightened federal attention on organized crime, which included the use of wiretaps, informants, and extensive investigations into mob operations. Tropiano was sentenced to life in prison. Imprisonment and death. After his conviction, Tropiano spent the rest of his life in prison. His once powerful criminal empire in New Haven and Brooklyn crumbled under law enforcement pressure. His incarceration marked the end of his reign in the organized crime world. Tropiano died in prison in 1980, marking the conclusion of a life defined by violence, criminality, and a rise and fall within the American Mafia. Documentaries and media. While Ralph Whitey Tropiano isn't as widely known as some of the more infamous mafia figures like John Gotti or Al Capone, his life has been covered in some documentaries and true crime accounts that focus on New England and New York mafia operations. His involvement in murders and organized crime in New Haven and Brooklyn has been part of a larger narrative about the mafia's reach beyond New York City, exploring how these criminal organizations influenced smaller cities. Documentaries and true crime series detailing his life often focus on his rise within the Genovese crime family, his brutal methods of maintaining control, and his eventual downfall through increased law enforcement efforts in the 1960s. Interviews with former law enforcement officials, historians, and even former associates of Tropiano have shed light on his violent methods and leadership within the mob world. Key cities in Tropiano's life. Brooklyn, New York, where he started his criminal career and became affiliated with the Genovese crime family. New Haven, Connecticut, a smaller city where he built a criminal empire and became involved in several murders and racketeering. Federal prisons, where he spent the last years of his life following his arrest and conviction. Though his story may not be as widely publicized, Ralph Whitey Tropiano remains a significant figure in the history of organized crime in America, particularly for his contributions to expanding mafia influence beyond New York. Thanks for tuning into Sika True Crime Docs. If you enjoyed this story, Don't forget to like and subscribe for more captivating tales. Your support helps us keep bringing these stories to life. See you in the next episode.